Okay, my mother's birthday is this month, and she's one of those people who are difficult to buy presents for. If you ask her what she wants, she says, I don't want anything. But then if you don't give her anything, she seems disappointed. So I'm going to try something useful rather than something decorative, or hopefully decorative and useful. So I've been playing about with my compass and drawing some designs for a desk pot. Because she's a TA in a primary school, so it's something to put pens and pencils and things in. So I've gone through a couple of different variations of 3, 4 or 5 pots. I like this one better. It seems to be slightly more fancy, I think, being a 5. So now I'm in the process of actually building my wood. And to do this, I'm using all of my scrap, well, as much of my scrap from Veneer Mountain as I possibly can, and I'm in the process of sticking together bits and pieces of the same kind of veneer so that I can make enough sheets to build up the layers of this. So I need it around about this big, which is 4.5 inches square. So I'm in the process of cutting all of these, which is tedious. Okay, so you've seen me do one of these, but I've actually made 6, but I only need 5 in the end, so one of those can go for some other project later on. So what I've got is around about 50 layers of veneer. Now only the kind of the bottom 8 and the top 3 are solid sheets, the rest are kind of made up from bits and pieces. So I'm not, wasting whole sheets, and I don't want to waste any of this kind of excess around the outside. So I've drawn out my part with this grid on it so that I can cut these out and turn them into beads, so that I'm going to have that kind of layered look for some bracelets and things. So yeah, I'm not wasting veneer, I'm able to use as much of this as possible. So yeah, I've got 5 of those to cut, and then the top and bottom here, and this is the maximum size that would actually fit in my press. So yeah, so that, and the very top layer here I've got some burr. That's the only time I've used burr on this box. So just as the very top of the box here. So I've got the bottom and the top just taped together so I can cut out the rough shape here. Excuse me. And then drill out the centre, and then cut each of these petals into an individual top. So that's the first bit. So I'm just going to go round the top here before I start on these. It's going to be a lot of cutting. I'll show you some of it, but otherwise it's going to get excessive. So I'm working quite slowly. I've got a number 2 blade in here, and that should be, these aren't very tight turns, so it should be alright being able to get these. And again, I'm not going tight to the lines, I'm going to stay a couple of mil outside so I've got some sanding room. So here goes. Right, I've done my first little bit and made a couple of changes. This thicker blade, which I thought would be good for this, really isn't, and the lines are completely off, so I might have to sacrifice those beads, but there's going to be more coming, so I'm changing back to a 2 blade. But the banking plate here, I keep catching the corner of the piece in there, so I'm building a little table. So a thin bit of wood here, I've just sawn about halfway through it. I'm just going to tape it down. Hopefully that should leave me a smoother surface to work on. Right, now how fragile these beads are. They're just breaking apart. Even the ones that came out of the middle here, which would have got more of the glue. So I think using plain PVA was probably a bad idea, and I'm going to be paying for that by doing lots of remedial gluing. Okay, it's just turned 10 and I'm about to go back indoors. I've finished my sawing and tidied up, and then I started to tease away at these to try and find the weak spots, and there are lots of weak spots. So that's going to be tomorrow's job, gluing these together. I've got some scroll saw sanding kit coming, so if that arrives I'll start doing that in the afternoon, but if not they can sit and dry for a bit longer. They're still damp. So I think maybe the blocks were too thick to start with, so I should limit my block size, which I'm going to do in future. I'm not going to do something this big again, I don't think. I think maybe no more than about 20 layers should be fine for jewellery, and that's pretty much all I'm going to be doing. I've got one more block of this to use, so I've got to try and work out what I'm going to do with that, but I'll come back to that next month probably. And as for my beads, I have a fair number. Some of them are quite strong and sturdy, and well, and some are really not. So this is going to be a bit of a project, I think, to break them down or build them up as required. I was thinking that I'd have to cut them down to turn them into beads, but a lot of them are going to end up being about bead size without much help, and others are going to have to be glued together. So that's going to be one of those projects for a rainy day when I've got nothing else to do, because I've got a lot to do. These have sat and dried for most of the day. Still some weak spots, but I can pick them up as I go along. And I've taken off the tape along the back straight edges here. I'm going to start sanding those down so they exactly fit into the angle. So once that's done, I'll hold the blocks together and then sand around the faces. So a bit of hand sanding to do, and then I can get out my new toys. I've got a whole load of scroll saw sanding stuff now, so I've got that to play with. So I've drawn out on the base the angle I need. This is not far off, but I'm just going to level it out because where I've had to re-stick these, they're not quite sitting together. So a little bit of hand sanding, not too much. So after searching around on online and on eBay, I've managed to get hold of some files for the scroll saw and some sanding strips. So I've got 2 different widths. This is a 80 grit, that's a 180. So that should hopefully make all of this slightly easier to do. So I've smoothed out the straight corners here, so now I need to match the curve and the inside. So I'm going to have a go with the file. The problem with this is probably the maximum my machine can take, so it's going to be an interesting time. So let's just see how we go. So I've tidied up most of the outside edges. Some are a little bit wobbly still, but there's more sanding to come, so that's not a problem. So now I'm just going to have a quick whiz around the inside. I haven't decided whether I'm going to finish the inside or cover it, but I just need to make sure that it's a fairly smooth finish. Okay, so these have sat for a couple of hours and they're well glued. There are some gaps, but I can fill those with no problem. So So now I need to make sure that the bottom and the top both match exactly the profile of these. So what I've done is I've taped together the lids, and just double-sided on top of the masking tape because I don't want to really damage the burr on here. And try and find that angle. Yeah. And I'm just fixing it to the bottom here. You remember these were cut together, so that should hold these in place. I'm just going to go around the edge with my spiral blade just to trim these down to the right shape. Okay, so this is the last real process on the scroll saw now. So I'm starting working on the lids, and I'm guesstimating around about 8mm from the edge of each of these lids, so that I can cut back a lot of the wood and create a bevel that's roughly even. So I've got my table turned to 45 degrees. I've put my other cover on, because this is now covered in sticky tape, so it's got a smooth edge, smooth surface. So I'm planning to guide the blade around this line I've drawn in. If it's slightly off, that's not a problem, because this is just kind of a starting point for the bevel itself. So I've piloted the holes for the hinges and the handles, and I've curved over all of the top edges and a little bit on the bottom, and then left it on the shelf for a couple of days. And when I came back in, it had committed suicide and leapt off the shelf, and all of this side was shattered and exploded, and I couldn't get it to fit back in again. So I've made the decision to cut it back so it's fairly neat, and now I've got to work out a way of refilling this gap. I have recently thrown away my bag of bits, my bag of scraps and offcuts, so I've got to do something with some new wood. I've got a whole nother block, but I don't want to use the whole thing, so I think maybe I can put a couple of sheets of veneer vertical, maybe? I don't know. Now I need to fill all the cracks here and any cracks I can find around. So instead of using pre-mixed, I'm going to use some powdered this time and mix up my own batch. And to make this, what I need is a filler that's going to help to bind all this together. So I'm going to add in some PVA and some paint to colour it down. So I don't want white filler on this one. So I've got a couple of tablespoons worth of powder in there. About maybe half a tablespoon of glue. I might need to add some more. And drop or two of paint again. I might need to add some more. See how that goes. So don't know exactly how much water I'm going to need. Having added glue, it's probably going to affect what I've got here. So let's just start with that. So now I'm going to start filling. It's kind of toothpastey, I reckon. So start with a wee bit and press it into the crack. Not too concerned about the lids, I just need to make sure that it falls into all the cracks on the sides here as well. There are still faint cracks between the layers of wood. So that filler has done its job, but it clearly shows all the bad cuts I made. Never mind. I'm just going to see what happens when I damp it down slightly. I'll rinse off this excess. So, oh yeah. Hopefully, and yes, a lot of the filler backs off. Doesn't look quite so bad. This is my my repair, which is ugly. There's not much I can do about that. Okay, so I'm working my way round, cutting through, and for my patch I've just scored it through a few times just so that it clears the veneer. So I'm coming down about 20 layers in total, so I'm around about 10 layers below the bevel. So I'm sliding my knife in, basically doing what I was trying to avoid doing before, and just splitting the glue. And once it's in, it's fairly easy to do. So I've gone all the way around and just cut the front edge of each of these. So now I've got a straight chisel, which is not terribly sharp but sharp enough for this. Now I'm just going to place it between the cracks here on the join and just push forward. I'm not going to go very far on the first pass. I'm just going to gradually work my way into the centre until this comes open. So I'm just using some old bed sheet, actually. It's been cut up. I'm going to be fairly liberal with it as usual, just so I can get a decent coverage and then work it all back. So this repair is still not fabulous. I'm going to have to do something about this side of the box. I'm mainly putting the finish on the pieces that will be visible and moving at least. So that's the main face and then the sides. So I'm not really finishing the back or the inside at the minute because I haven't decided what I'm going to do about that. So I'm just going to do the rim and the sides here, and do that all the way around and then buff it all off. In terms of what I've got planned for this, the question is I don't know. It's still intended to be a gift, but I don't know that with the repair in there that I really can use it, give it as a gift. I've still got that blank or that block left to do something with, but I don't know if I want to use a bit of that to fill in here or something else. I don't know. So this is kind of where it's going to stand at the minute. I'm just putting these pulls on and just giving it a last inspection really. I still intend to drill out the inside layer here slightly because this is quite uneven, and probably put some filler or something on the inside of the pots just to even those out as well. And where is it, that one? This lid is kind of clashing with the two either side, so that needs a bit of sanding. So yeah, I can still quite easily cut this out and replace it with some more layered block, but the block I've got left is only half this size, so do some special cutting from doing that. So I don't know where I'm going from here. I'll call this finished as is for the minute, and I'll make whatever decisions I need to make and do the final bits, and then I'll sneak it into Mum's handbag on her birthday, so she'll find it when she goes to work, and then we'll see what happens from there. So yeah, project as complete as possible. Again, it's a learning experience, and I've learned quite a lot in making this. I've got ideas for the spare block I've got. That should be coming out next month. So yeah, no more sewing for a month, and I'm back on it again. So, this project done. Any comments, any suggestions, any advice? By all means, I'm very much looking for some sort of advice.